Good afternoon, kings and queens, and welcome to Believe in Yourself Tuesday. I'm your host, Lakina Folks. Today's guest is none other than Andre T. Johnson, the creator of Making Headline News. He is a long-time sports journalist. He has interviewed countless of sports personalities like Colin Kaepernick, Stephen Curry, Kobe Bryant, just to name a few. He's respected amongst the sports world, but now he gives a platform to everyone that have a story of success in his magazine. So don't move. We'll be right back to talk more to Andre Johnson right after this.
Shop Royal Bling, where everyone feels royal. You can find the latest in bling merchandise at royalblingshop.com. You will find Boss Lady, Man of War, I Am King, Closing Deals with Heels, Faith Over Fear, and all of your designer masks and much, much more. Make sure you go to royalblingshop.com.
Welcome, Andre Johnson, to Believe in Yourself Tuesday. It is an absolute pleasure to have you on the show today. How are you?
I am doing well. Thanks for having me. I'm glad for the opportunity.
Yes, Andre. So you are a journalist. So how did you get into journalism? Let's start with that.
Oh, wow. That's a question that I get asked quite often. Because when it comes to print journalism, there's not a lot of brown and black skinned people in print journalism. So I'm grateful to people like Stephen A. Smith, Michael Wilbon, who started out in newspapers, just like myself, and now they transition over to television. Mm-hmm. All these guys you see on TV actually started in print, started with major daily newspapers. And this is actually my 22nd year. I got my start right after coming out of University of Memphis in spring 2000. I actually, unlike some college students, I didn't have time to actually look for a job because I had one waiting on me when I came out of journalism school.
Oh, wow.
Okay. Which is one of the top 10 journalism schools in the country. Shout out to the University of Memphis.
Okay.
But I graduated on a Friday, and Monday morning I walked right into a newsroom. And that right there was a life-altering experience for me in media. It prepared me for starting my own media outlet, and I am forever grateful to my mentor. I'm sure he's going to be listening to this footage, Mr. Otis Sanford in Memphis. A Hall of Fame journalist who actually paved the way for me and gave me my first start in journalism, and here we are today.
22 years in journalism. That's amazing. So it always has been a passion of yours? It's something that you always wanted to do?
Journalism is something I always wanted to do. Now, for the record, I wanted to start off in broadcasting. I remember when I was in middle school, I would, my next door neighbor, would give me all of his old sports magazines, and they had all these basketball players in it. Magic Johnson, Larry Bird. Of course, we grew up during that era when the NBA, to me, wasn't so watered down like the league is now. And I would take those pictures out of the magazines. Some of these magazines was 6 months to a year old, and I would take the pictures out of the magazine. And my mom is sort of big on cleanliness.
Okay.
But one thing she let me do in my bedroom was to pretty much blanket my wall with all these basketball players' pictures: Michael Jordan, Magic Johnson, Charles Barkley, Moses Malone. And I always said that one day I am going to interview these same players. Journalism is something that I want to always do. I didn't really prepare myself academically to go on to journalism school, to meet the requirements to even get into a four-year university. I was one of those type of people who had to I actually put myself in position to overcome adversity. In other words, I didn't prepare myself. I knew all about sports. I knew all about the stats. I knew all about March Madness. I knew about the players. I knew about the score of games that took place 25 years ago. But my grades weren't reflective of someone who had aspirations of going to journalism school. After my 11th grade year, my cumulative GPA, this is very important that I share this. My cumulative GPA after my junior year of high school, for someone who had aspirations of going to journalism school, was a 1.82.
Oh, wow.
GPA.
So how did you get into college?
I had to quit basketball. I quit playing basketball. That was a matter of fact, ironically, I ended up quitting on my birthday of my junior year. I said, I can't do this. I got to make something out of myself. Or I'm going to wind up graduating high school, barely, and I'm going to end up working a dead-end job for someone that's a less than respectable job. And it's going to be a frustrating experience. No one in my family, before I went to college, had gone to a four-year university. And so I wanted to break that generational curse.
Yeah.
So I quit basketball. I decided to focus on my academics. I never forget my 11th grade English teacher. And I had just made an F in English.
Wow.
Had just made an F in English. The first 6 weeks I made a D. The second 6 weeks I made an F. So obviously I was going backwards. And I never forget the conversation, Miss Georgia Berry. She told me, she said, listen, you come to my room, you talk sports all the time. We got our career search newspaper, a new career search paper coming up that we're gonna do in the second semester. Career search. Obviously it was a research paper, but she said career search. She said, I want you to do yours on careers and sportscasting. And at that point, that was a defining moment for me. I began to do research on salaries, the requirements to delve off into journalism. And from that day forward, I got committed to academics. I knew I could do the work. I just wasn't applying myself.
Right. Wow.
And so from that point on, the second semester of my junior year through the end of my senior year, I was an honor roll student. When I visited the University of Tennessee, I said, I got to go to this school. I wasn't accepted to the university until roughly a month after I graduated high school.
Wow.
So I went off, I managed to get into the University of Tennessee. Normally at universities, at big universities, they don't allow you to get experience in the broadcasting studio. They don't allow you to do that right off. You sort of get experience maybe when you get into your major, junior, senior year.
But because you believed in yourself, you were able to go on to college. And then you said something. You said you spoke that when you were, was it the 8th grade, you had pictures that's what you wanted to do. So that also shows people like the power of your words. Our words are powerful. No matter when we say it in our lives, that it can happen. And no matter what it looks like, you had 1.8. But you said, oh no, this got to change. And then you believe in yourself. And then you had somebody else that believed in you, that helped push you.
Yes. And don't you know that it was my, right. Don't you know it was actually my insubordination that actually led to my led to this teacher having a conversation with me about journalism. Who knows if we'd be having this conversation if she didn't have that conversation with me.
Right. Wow.
And so it was as if a domino effect took place. My English teacher took me under her wing. Mr. Otis Sanford took me under his wing into my profession. I had journalism professors. When I got to college, I got to a predominantly white university. I was the only African American on the newspaper staff. Because I wasn't allowed to go into the studio to do broadcasting, I started writing for the campus newspaper as a freshman. When I saw my name, when I saw by Andre Johnson above a news story, I was like, you know what? This is what I want to do.
That enlightened the fire.
Is what I want to do.
Wow.
Print journalism is what I want to do. And honestly, you know, almost 22 years in, be 22 years as of May 8th this year.
Okay.
I'm still learning as a journalist. What do I mean by that? I look for ways to write. I look for opportunities to free write, to enhance my craft daily.
Wow.
And so it was because God put right people in my path
Yeah.
who, as the young people say these days, ear hustle, hearing the conversations that I was having about sports and athletes that
Yes.
paved the way for me and inspired me to go on and pursue my dream as a journalist. So here we are now. And now I'm in front of these NBA players on a regular basis.
Yes.
And, you know, every time I walk in the NBA arena is I don't take that lightly because, you know, my mind goes back to when I was in the 8th grade, when I was hanging these pictures on my wall. Now I'm in front of these NBA players, and, you know, it's just a wonderful experience.
Yes, yes, it is. And such an inspiration and a story that you can tell to other young children that whatever dream that you have as a child, you definitely can do that. Continue to dream, and it can happen. You're a true testimony of that. That you had pictures all on the wall at 8 years old, and you're doing that exact same thing. You're meeting NBA players. You've been in front of and talked to some of the greats. And so I got on here that you've interviewed some phenomenal sports players, Kobe Bryant, LeBron
wow.
James.
And
Yeah. So how was that experience with interviewing them? Like you being right in front of LeBron James and Kobe Bryant and Colin Kaepernick.
yeah, Colin Kaepernick, I never forget. Let me share this before I get to Colin Kaepernick. Let me share this experience with Kobe Bryant.
Okay.
Obviously, I was heartbroken upon hearing about his tragic death.
Yeah.
I didn't want to believe it because I'm one of hundreds and thousands of reporters who have stood in front of this, one of the all-time greats in the NBA, and interviewed him. And when I look back in the archives at all the stories I've written, I actually interviewed Kobe Bryant 8 times. Isn't that ironic that his first jersey number was 8? The most notable highlight of interviewing Kobe Bryant took place in Memphis, March 2010. The team was struggling. I don't think they was even going to the playoffs that year. They had an all-team meeting that day, and Kobe really didn't want to talk to the press that day. But news had got out that he was on the brink of becoming the Lakers' all-time leading scorer. He was going to pass Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. And Kobe ended up getting that record that night. And I never forget the conversation I had with him in the locker room and how he sat and paid homage to Magic and Kareem and Jerry West, all these guys who paved the way for him. And so that was pretty much my biggest moment with Kobe Bryant. Now, of course, LeBron was one of those guys. When he came in the league, he was sort of cocky for the most part, and he had this chip on his shoulder. Hey, I'm a new kid on the block. You know, I'm determined to become the next Michael Jordan. And
Right.
and LeBron kind of mellowed out, and he became more calm after he won his first championship. And I never forget a few months before I relocated from Memphis to Dallas, I came to Dallas to cover the Miami Heat and the Dallas Mavericks. LeBron was fresh off his first championship, and I never forget, I went to the morning shoot-around session. LeBron was standing off on the west end of the court alone, so I walked down to him, had my pad and pen in the hand. I didn't want to interview him. I just wanted to have a regular conversation with him because from my understanding, he and Savannah, his high school sweetheart, had gotten married.
Okay.
And we didn't talk basketball. We talked life.
Wow.
We talked life, and of course, I was joking, but at the same time, I was serious.
Yeah.
I was joking. I said, "Hey, what advice can you give me on marriage?" And I never forget. Matter of fact, I wrote a daily devotion about this. Maybe I should go reshare it today.
Yeah.
But he said, "Choose your battles." He said, "Choose your battles." And don't you know that for someone who's essentially a newlywed, I still keep that thought with me to this day.
Yeah.
So, LeBron was one of those guys that you can kind of talk, not really talk basketball, but you can kind of talk life. Now, of course, Colin Kaepernick, I do need to point this out.
Okay.
Colin Kaepernick obviously played for my favorite team, San Francisco 49ers. And I never forget, I actually covered the 49ers back in 2013. I was in Memphis, and I was actually the beat reporter for the Tennessee Titans. So I would travel up to Nashville anytime they had a home game and cover the Titans, which is about 3.5 hours from Memphis. And of course, my 49ers came through and played the Titans. and I had a chance to cover Colin Kaepernick in the Niners. Now, of course, I couldn't wear paraphernalia in the press box. I'm media, so I had to assume a disbiased approach. But after the game, I was in the Niners locker room. I was in their press conference, and I actually walked Colin Kaepernick to the team bus. And so that's my personal experience with Colin Kaepernick. Hopefully he'll get back in the NFL, but if he don't, I can always say that I had a personal encounter with Colin Kaepernick.
So has there been anyone that you haven't interviewed that you want to interview?
Wow. There's anyone I haven't interviewed who I would like to interview? I have to check you off the list because I've interviewed you.
Right.
You know what? I would like to interview the royal family.
Okay.
I know that sounds strange. You probably was thinking I was going to say an athlete.
Yeah.
But I would like to interview the royal family. I would. I would. So I kind of envy Oprah for that. I like to interview her too.
Okay.
But I have interviewed Stevie Wonder. I have interviewed
awesome.
him. I interviewed Stevie Wonder. But I would like to interview the royal family. Probably out the entire family.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I just want to see what are things like in Buckingham Palace.
Okay. So no Detroit Pistons or Lions?
Let's see. What Detroit players have I interviewed? Well, let's see. I did have Isaiah Thomas. I had his picture on my wall as an 8th grader. I don't know. The Detroit Lions they're still under the radar. They're an up and coming team. They got this rookie. They got this rookie out of Oklahoma State who's doing real well, and I haven't had a chance to meet him. I'm sure I will. But because I cover a Western Conference team, the Detroit Lions only come through Dallas once a year. But to answer your question, no. Okay. I can't think of any Detroit Lions or Piston players who I would like to interview. Now, if I had to decide on one former Piston, I would say Isaiah Thomas.
Okay. So if anyone was interested in journalism, what 3 things would you tell a journalist to embody, that they need to embody?
Number 1, be teachable. You have to be teachable. You cannot come into this industry with thick skin. You have to be teachable. I remember as a rookie reporter for the Memphis Commercial Appeal newspaper in 2000, newspaper that hired me right out of journalism school. I never forget this experience. I had a really rough stretch as a rookie reporter. I got mistakes in the newspaper, errors, as they say, errors in the newspaper, probably 3 times in 1 week. My editor grilled me big time. The same editor who gave me my first break. He grilled me. Matter of fact, he had some expletives that he said to me in his office. And he told me that if I get another error in the paper, I will be suspended. And if I get another one, I will be fired.
Really? Wow.
I got another error in the paper the next day. He never grilled me on it. He didn't call me in his office. He showed compassion. And he told me the reason he did that was because I was teachable. You have to be teachable in this industry.
That's good.
Look at a lot of the things that Stephen A. Smith, I'm using him as an example, that he had to go through to get to where he is at ESPN. He was teachable when he wrote for the New York Times and he wrote for the Philadelphia Daily News. He was teachable. You have to be teachable. You have to have thick skin.
Yeah.
Everybody's not going to like everything that you write. We're not in this business to make people happy and to make people sad. We are in this business to inform.
Yes.
And based on the information we put out, people, let them draw their own conclusion. You have to be teachable. 2, you have to work at your craft daily. I'm still learning. I never stop learning as a reporter. I'm still looking for ways to enhance my craft, especially as an editor.
Yeah.
3, you have to get that 4-year degree. Not only that, you can get the 4-year degree. You have to have that, obviously. But you have to have experience. When a kid declare a major for journalism, regardless of whether it's print or broadcasting or radio, you need to be seeking internships after your freshman year. If you wait until your junior year, you're playing it close. If you do it after your senior year, that's too late.
Wow.
You have to seek internships if a media outlet is going to hire you. You have to have the professional experience. You can graduate with honors from college. If you don't have experience, professional experience in this industry, landing a job, you can hang it up. You know what? I barely graduated college. I was an average student. I was on academic probation at one time. You know why I was on academic probation? I was on academic probation because I spent too much time in the newsroom working on the campus newspaper. Now, that's not what I'm suggesting that aspiring journalists should do. You have to apply yourself and put in the work, have favorable academics. But because I spent so much time in the college newsroom working on my craft, when I applied for an internship, it was a foregone conclusion that I would get it. So before I graduated college, I got not one, but two internships, which made it easy for newspapers to recruit me coming out of college.
That's awesome. Those are some absolutely good tips. And it took you a lot also with believing in you, believing in yourself, because in high school you were on, probation really with the GPA, and even in college. So how important do you feel believing in yourself and believing in what you're doing is important? Talk a little bit about that.
Believing in yourself is extremely important. You have to be, despite what people say about you, despite, as I say, the negative predictions that they will render against you, whether it's family members, church members, friends in your neighborhood, you have to believe in yourself. Do you have what it takes to make your dreams a reality? Not only should you have the mindset to think that you have what it takes to make your dreams a reality, are you willing to put in the work?
That's good.
Believing in yourself requires you to put in the work. You can say all day that you believe in yourself, but until your actions, until your work ethic reflect that, you're just talking.
You gotta put in the
You
work.
have to put in the work.
Yes.
And every day I get up, and I've been in this field for more than 2 decades. I'm still looking to enhance my craft. And this is why, because of the experience, because of all the time that I spent in the college newsroom when I should have been studying. And I had to, even while in college, it got to a point where I had to have that light bulb moment from a professor. I'll never forget, and I have to share this with the young people. I never forget when I was on academic probation in college, on the brink of getting kicked out, seeing my journalism dreams shattered. I never forget one of my journalism professors, the late Dorothy Norton, God rest her soul. She told me that if journalism is something that you want to do, you need to quit being a little boy and get committed to academics. That stayed with me for the rest of my life. Now you see this pattern where professors and teachers have had conversations with me.
Yeah.
That changed my life, and that stuck with me. I knew I could do journalism. I knew I could interview players. I knew I could write because I had been working on it for so long. But I wasn't applying myself.
Wow. Amazing. Amazing. So believing in yourself, putting in the work, and that's so true. Like, you have to work at it. It doesn't matter even if you believe, but you have to put forth that effort. Wow.
Yes.
That's so
Especially
amazing.
especially as people in this field, brown and black skin,
Yeah.
we have to work just as hard
Yeah.
because the
Just-
journalism industry is dominated by Caucasian men.
And then your journey has prepared you to have your own magazine headline. So you have Making Headline News. I had the pleasure of being featured in your magazine. So tell the audience a little bit about that platform, and how did you get started with that platform?
Oh, wow. I'm gonna say this. When making headline news was established, when I woke up on the morning of Thursday morning of December 8th, 2016, I was planning on covering the NBA game that day. Matter of fact, I went to an early morning practice. Anytime on game day, the NBA teams have like a morning shoot around session where reporters are able to go in and interview players. Hours before the game. And so I went to the Dallas Mavericks shoot around, and I was getting ready to go file my pregame report on the publication where I was the managing editor / senior writer of the NBA writer. This publication, now I'm in Dallas, but this publication is based out of Memphis. The publisher and the owner of this publication ceased operations of the magazine and did not tell me.
Wow.
He did not tell me. I'm still waiting on a return call.
Wow.
I'm still waiting on a return text. I'm still waiting on a return email.
Wow. So just dropped it out of the blue.
I booked advertisers that day
wow.
to have their ads ready. He ceased operations of the publication.
Just like that. Wow.
Now I'm faced with two options. You either give your advertisers their money back or you start your own publication. When I got to my car, I was on the arena parking lot. This was about 10 a.m. that morning. Thursday morning, December 16th. December 8th, 2016. I did not leave that lot until close to 2 o'clock that day, until I had Making Headline News up and running.
Wow. So you did it in the parking lot.
I did it in the parking lot of an NBA arena.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow. So you started the business in the parking lot. You said, I'm not going to let this stop me. No. I'm going to start my own business. You did it in the parking lot. You didn't wait, because some of us would have waited. We would have consulted. We would have got worried, but
got mad,
got all of that.
Said all kinds of expletives. Went to Facebook.
Right.
All kinds of.
But you said, no, I'm gonna take this opportunity. God opened the door and the opportunity for you to have your own company, and you did it in the parking lot. That's amazing.
That's a whole. I'm not a preacher.
Right.
But I keep the word with me. But I will say this to the young people, young aspiring journalists. Don't be a slave to what God is calling you to start on your own.
Yes.
That is what God was telling me that day. I had nothing to do. I had nothing to do when I left shoot around that day but to write a pregame NBA report. And the only thing that did not get done that day was my pregame NBA report. Because I had to look at my career from the big picture. It was time for me to step out on faith and do my own thing. You know what? I believe God allowed me not to get in touch with that guy. Because it would have taken away from me taking steps toward my destiny. Wow. Now here we are.
Here we are. That's amazing.
In year 6 of Making Headline News, which, by the way, saw a significant increase in advertising revenue weeks after the pandemic started.
Wow.
So this is why I don't take my career, my field, journalism lightly. This is why I don't take it lightly, because, again, you put in the work and you stay committed and you look for ways to enhance your craft. This is what I mean by that.
Wow.
And now I get to oversee the day-to-day operations of my publication that has been embraced by people all over the country.
Yeah, it's everywhere.
It all started with believing in yourself.
Yes, believing in yourself and not giving up. I mean, I'm still blown away at the fact you started it in the parking lot.
Like an NBA arena.
NBA arena. Like, wow. And here you are today. That is amazing. It shows your dedication and passion and how good God is. Like what look the situation when it looked dark and down. No, light bulb go off. Start your own business. Thank you, kings and queens, for joining me on today on Believe in Yourself Tuesday with our guest, Andre T. Johnson. I hope you enjoyed the show today. Be sure to like and subscribe to my YouTube channel, Lakina Folks, where you can get more inspirational stories from many, many phenomenal guests that will help encourage you and inspire you to continue to believe and dream in yourself. It's never too late to start believing and dreaming. Remember, everything you need is right there inside of you. All you have to do is believe in yourself. I hope you all have a great week. Remember, believe.